Hey everyone, so as promised I'm going to let you know about the new MAC foundation that's been released, well it's been released on Counter this Thursday, so in a couple of days time, which is the 7th of March I believe, and it's been released in Europe, USA, around the rest of the world, bar Asia. It won't be in Asia until the beginning of next year I believe. But it has been available on the MAC Cosmetics website as of last Thursday. So anyone who regularly checks on the website see that it has been available there, and you can get all the information about it from there. This is going to be a new Mineralize Moisture Foundation. That's actually the name of it. And it is to replace the Mineralize Satin Finish foundation that already exists. I was never a big fan of the satin finish, so I think this is brilliant. I think that the satin finish kind of did let down the Mineralize range a little bit. I really love the rest of the products. I love the powder. I mean, I've gone on about this guy, I'd say, more than anyone wants to hear me going on about anything. I love the loose powder. I love their blushers. My favourite blusher pretty much whole of the MAC range is the Warm Soul Mineralized blusher. I think it's fantastic. So I did find the satin finish quite disappointing. So this is to take over from it. Now this is a beautiful creamy kind of liquid foundation. You can see that that's on the back of my hand from when I was doing my demo, and it has run but it stopped, so it's not like ridiculously water-lily fluid, but it's not very thick and creamy like the Studio Sculpt either. It comes in a new kind of packaging like this, so I think this is a really lovely sleek looking packaging. It is like an hourglass figure. I believe all the Mineralize products are going to be repackaged to kind of fall in line with this. But I think it's lovely. It comes with the kind of same pump we're used to with the Pro Longwear and the satin finish, but it comes with this wider bottom bottle. So it is still glass, of course. It is still 30ml. In Ireland it's going to be retailing for €36.50. It's going to be $33 in the USA, I think. It's pretty much in line in regards to pricing with the newer foundations that have been released by MAC in recent times. I think the bottle is absolutely lovely. Now the shade range is, as far as I know, it's going to copy the satin finish shade range, so it is excluding NW15. Which I think maybe, I have a feeling this is going to be in a very, very, very popular foundation. So I have a feeling it probably will be introduced in the future, if you know, as demanded or whatever, as popularity demands maybe, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see that. Now as far as how this guy works, it is a satin finish foundation. Now with our natural satin foundation, with the previous satin finish foundation, I found it kind of glittery and bitty and it went weird on my face. It wasn't smooth. This is totally the opposite. It is lovely and smooth and there's no glittery particles in it. It's just a really lovely, kind of like a silk-like foundation. It kind of reminded me of one of the Armani foundations that I used to have. I think it's a beautiful texture. It is a long-wearing foundation. It aims to last up to 8 hours on the skin. Now, I would personally say that this is more suitable for people with from dry skin up to normal and maybe dry combination. It can be worn by people with oily combination skin. It just means that you have to prepare your skin really, really well underneath, because it does have like a dewy kind of finish and quite a luminous finish. And of course, anyone with oily skin knows that if you have oily skin, which does tend to pop throughout the day regardless of what you do, using a luminous finish foundation over that just enhances the oiliness. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now MAC don't discriminate when it comes to skin type. They claim pretty much that all their foundations will suit everyone, so you can just experiment with this. Go to your nearest counter and ask for a sample and then try it out for yourself, and you know, try it with different things. I would definitely say use a powder with it though, because it does leave you with that luminous finish, and whereas that will really suit people with very dry skin maybe who can get away without powder. Anyone with combination oily skin will need to powder. I personally would powder even on people with dry skin, just to stop transference from touching your face throughout the day. It's actually been released with the MAC 130 foundation brush, so you know this is the short duo fibre brush. This is one that I had from one of the Christmas collections, but it's going to be released with the long black handle one. I think this is a lovely foundation brush. I think you could still easily apply it with your normal duo fibre brush like this guy, because it is definitely fluid enough for that, and you could probably get away with using this. I just find that with the more fluid ones you probably are blending it in a little bit longer with these guys. So it says that it's a sheer to medium coverage. I think it's definitely quite medium. I'm wearing it now. This covers pretty much some of the blemishes that I had showing through, but it also evens out my skin tone really, really well. It does feel lovely and soft and kind of silky and hydrating on the skin, and it offers instant as well as long-lasting hydration. It contains this 77 mineral complex that MAC love to promote with their Mineralize range. So it's full of vitamins and minerals. It has the vitamin E and A and E, I think, which are antioxidants. It has shea butter. It has loads of other great ingredients in it. So it's one of these foundations that is really going to be quite beneficial to skin. I think it'd be quite suitable for anyone with dry, dehydrated skin. So even people who are oily and dehydrated could definitely use this, as long as, like I said, they prepared their skin really well. Okay, so obviously I'm totally makeup free. I'm not long out of the shower, and my skin was feeling quite a little bit tight and dry after the shower. I was at the gym as well, and I hadn't moisturised for that, so that could be it, and it was a really hot shower, I suppose. So with this foundation being moisturising, it is really good for dry skin. Still want to make sure to prep your skin well underneath though, because it'll act as a humectant as well, so it'll trap that moisture in. So for those of you with really dry skin, you really do have to make sure you moisturise well, even though it is for dry skin. For people with oily skin, just make sure that you don't use anything too heavy moisturiser wise. Just use something nice and light and hydrating. Even something like the Moisture Infusion Serum by MAC, if you have something like that that's just really light and wouldn't be in any way greasy or anything like that, just to get a little bit of hydration in there, and then you can go ahead and use your oil control primers and stuff like that in the meantime. But I'm just going to apply it without a primer today. I'm really not that shiny at the moment, but I did obviously moisturise. So how I prepped my skin to counteract the tight feeling from being in such a hot shower and stuff, I spritzed it with a water spray. This is the La Roche-Posay thermal water spray. You could also use the MAC Plus or the Mineralize water spritz if you have that. Trap that in with my Soap and Glory Feel Good Factor SPF 25, because it is daytime here, and this is a really lovely light but hydrating moisturiser. I really like it, and it is full of antioxidants and stuff like that. So I'm applying this with the 130 MAC brush that is being re-promoted as well with the Mineralize Moisture Foundation collection, and I'm going to be obviously applying my colour, which is the NC15. One pump is plenty, definitely for like kind of natural day wear. You can always add up a little bit more if you feel like you need more coverage, but it's not bad coverage. It is better than the predecessor, the Mineralize Satin Finish. It is quite a fluid foundation, but it's not as fluid as maybe the Studio Fix Fluid. It's nowhere near as thick as the Studio Sculpt. It's somewhere kind of in between. It'll still run on your hand, but it won't totally run. It'll kind of stop after a while. So the coverage of this is lovely. It gives a really even, luminous coverage or finish. Now it's described as a sheer to medium coverage, but I find it is quite a good, decent medium coverage. Works really well at evening out skin tone. Now with this being such a hydrating foundation, I actually happily apply this underneath the eye area. I wouldn't do this with the Studio Fix Fluid because it is quite a dry foundation and it would have so many properties in it to absorb oil, and because we have so few oil glands in this area anyhow, we don't want to dry it out anymore. But with the Mineralize Moisture being such a hydrating foundation, I happily apply it underneath the eye area. That's not to say you won't necessarily need an extra concealer with it though as well, so that's just something you can check afterwards. I would still need something just to hide that darkness afterwards. So it has a really soft, kind of silky, smooth feeling to it as you're applying it. It really glides over the skin beautifully. Of course it would have silicones in it, and it also has powders in it for, you know, kind of light diffusing properties, but they're not drying. It wouldn't be a drying foundation at all like some other foundations that can have some powders in them. Although I think a lot of foundations do tend to have some amount of powders in them nowadays for that diffusing property. It has evened out, it has covered a lot of my redness. I could probably happily leave the house without adding too much more concealer or any concealer. I see a little bit of redness coming through here, but that wouldn't bother me for a daytime. If I wanted more of a nighttime or more of a flawless look, I might add a little bit more concealer. Even though this, of course, is for all skin types, and it's a long wearing foundation up to 8 hours. I would still advise setting it with a powder. For everyone, even people who are dry skinned who don't wear powder, there's nothing to stop transference. So when you touch your face, there's nothing to stop the foundation coming away on your hand, and then you're going to be left with patchy skin. We all subconsciously touch our face up to like 65 times a day or something like that, and whether you know you're doing it or not, you are taking away makeup every time you do it. So it is better to just try and set that in place. I'm just going to set that in place lightly with a little bit of this benign neutral set. Use anything you have. If you want to stick with your MAC stuff, that's fine. Lightly bounce it in place. Now I'm not going to powder just underneath the eye area because I will be adding a little bit of concealer there in a minute. But I would personally powder all over, just because it kind of has like a slight, not really wet, but it's just not a dry feeling. It doesn't feel like it sets on the skin. And then by putting a light powder on top, it just feels like it's just going to last a little bit longer. It's not too shiny, I think, when it's on, but it definitely has a shine. And if you're in any way oily, this will just add to that as the day goes on or progresses, and as your oil does become more productive. So that's another thing to be aware of. So do rely on your primers and your powders for oily skin. But I think it's just a really lovely, natural, very, very luminous and very comfortable foundation. This is like my second or third time wearing it now. As far as longevity goes, it does claim 8 hours wear. It doesn't discriminate as far as skin type goes. Okay, so quickly now, as I mentioned before, so this isn't a surprise, the satin finish is going. The Mineralize satin finish is going. Like I said, it's not a big loss, I don't think, by any means. I know some people like it, but I don't think it was a very popular foundation as far as MAC goes. And I think when the Sculpt came in as well, it really took over as their kind of dry skin foundation, whereas the Mineralize was quite popular for that before. So that's going to be phased out with the introduction of this guy. So if you do love it, go and try and get it before this Thursday, when it's going to be when this new guy is going to be in. People probably know this already, but the SPF 15 foundation by MAC was also discontinued there before Christmas, so at the end of last year. Some people don't know this, some people do, but again, it wasn't the most popular foundation MAC did ever. It was quite a long running foundation. People used to always mix it up with the Studio Fix Fluid because it was in the same, what's the word I'm looking for, in the same packaging. So it came with the screwed cap, and then you had to buy the pump separate, as you do still with the Studio Fix Fluid. It was the cheapest of the MAC liquid foundations, so the cheapest one now, I believe, is the Studio Fix Fluid. In Ireland is $31.50 without the pump. So yeah, that one was gone for anyone who may or may not have known about that. And then I think a lot of people know about some of the new shade ranges in the Studio Fix range as well. So the for instance, like the NW18 and NW22 kind of shades have been around since last year. I think it was around summertime. So they were happy add-ons to the Fix Fluid range. It is great that they're introducing these kind of mid tones and kind of halfway shades. Now, as far as the NW22 and the 18 go, I think they're a little bit more pink than the, say, 20 and the 15 and stuff like that. So they sometimes are a bit less neutral. And you can ask an artist on counter if you're confused about that at all. But the most recent add-ons to the Fix Fluid shade range were, I can't remember the darker colours, to be honest, but in Ireland everyone got really excited over the very, very light colours, which are the NW10 and the NW13. These were so needed. I think it would still be good if they added an NC10 or an NC13. That may happen again in the future. The Studio Fix Fluid NC15 I don't think is the lightest colour in the world compared to like the Sculpt NC15 and stuff like that. But anyhow, so they were definitely really, really needed. They've been out of stock of those two new shades for, I'd say, about a month. So that just goes to show how popular they are and how needed they are, because everyone wants them. To show that they'll probably be taking on new shades, and they are listening to customer feedback and stuff like that, because people have been calling for them for ages. But yeah, I hope this was informative and not too rambly anyhow, and I would say go to the counter on Thursday when it is released, or go, if you can order from the website, do that, because I have a feeling the popular shades will sell out pretty quickly, because this is a really fantastic foundation. I even go as far as to saying that it's going to probably be a holy grail foundation for a lot of people. There is a lot of excitement around it. It's been used in the fashion week since last year, and I know I've heard a lot of people saying that it was loved backstage by you know, models and artists alike. So definitely go to your nearest counter on Thursday or have a look on the website and let me know what you think of it. So thanks a million for watching, guys, and I'll chat to you all really soon. Slán!